Dr. Marcus Chun adjusted his xenobiology scanner for the third time that morning, still unable to believe the readings displayed on his screen. The Kepler Station research facility hummed quietly around him as he worked in Laboratory 7, the most secure wing dedicated to first contact protocols. Through the reinforced observation window, he watched his subject with a mixture of scientific fascination and barely contained amazement. Zaravel stood nearly 7 feet tall, her iridescent blue skin shifting colors like oil on water as emotions flickered across her elegant features. Her species, the Velthani, had made contact with Earth 6 months ago, arriving in sleek vessels that seemed to bend light around their hulls. What made this particular encounter extraordinary was not just the advanced technology they possessed, but Zaravel's insatiable curiosity about human biology and behavior. The Velthani were a highly advanced civilization that had mastered faster-than-light travel, energy manipulation, and genetic engineering centuries before humans had even discovered agriculture. Their society was built on logic, efficiency, and collective consciousness that allowed them to share thoughts and experiences instantaneously. Reproduction among their kind was a clinical, scientific process involving genetic material combination in specialized chambers, overseen by their biological engineers. Marcus had been assigned as Zaravel's primary liaison 3 weeks ago, tasked with answering her endless questions about human physiology and social structures. What had started as routine cultural exchange sessions had gradually evolved into something far more intriguing. Zaravel displayed an almost childlike wonder at the most basic aspects of human existence, from the way humans consumed food for pleasure rather than mere sustenance, to their tendency to form emotional attachments without logical reasoning. Dr. Chun, Zaravel's voice resonated through the communication system, her words carrying the musical quality that all Velthani possessed. I have been reviewing the biological data you provided regarding human reproduction. The process appears remarkably inefficient compared to our methods. Marcus looked up from his scanner, pushing his glasses up his nose. After 3 weeks of daily interactions, he had grown accustomed to Zaravel's direct approach to sensitive topics. Her species saw no shame or embarrassment in discussing biological functions, treating them with the same clinical detachment they applied to studying stellar phenomena. Inefficient how? He asked, genuinely curious about her perspective. Your species requires 2 individuals to engage in physical contact for genetic material transfer. This seems unnecessarily complicated when technological assistance could streamline the process. Furthermore, the gestation period of 9 months appears excessive when our offspring can be cultivated in 3 weeks using optimal environmental conditions. Marcus found himself smiling despite the clinical nature of the conversation. Well, efficiency isn't really the point for humans. The process serves multiple purposes beyond just reproduction. It strengthens emotional bonds between partners, provides physical pleasure, and creates psychological connections that benefit the offspring's development. Zaravel's skin shifted to a deeper shade of blue, indicating intense concentration. You mean humans engage in reproductive behavior even when reproduction is not the intended outcome? That's correct. Physical intimacy is an important part of human relationships, whether or not children are planned. Fascinating, she murmured, her large violet eyes studying Marcus with renewed interest. So this physical contact serves emotional and psychological functions that your species finds valuable. Exactly. It's one of the ways humans express love, trust, and commitment to each other. Zaravel was quiet for several minutes, her skin cycling through various shades as she processed this information. Marcus had learned that these color changes indicated complex thought patterns, similar to how humans might furrow their brows or tap their fingers when concentrating. Dr. Chun, I must confess something that may seem unusual, she finally said. In all our travels across the galaxy, we have encountered 47 different sentient species. None have demonstrated the emotional complexity that humans display in their interpersonal relationships. Your ability to form deep connections based on abstract concepts like trust and affection rather than purely practical considerations is unprecedented. Marcus felt a surge of pride at her words. Humans might not have the advanced technology or collective consciousness of the Velthani, but their capacity for individual emotional depth seemed to genuinely impress these cosmic travelers. Our scientists back on Velthar are particularly interested in understanding how these emotional bonds influence human behavior and decision-making, Zaravel continued. They believe studying human relationships could provide insights into developing more sophisticated artificial intelligence systems. You want to understand human emotions to improve your technology? Not exactly, she said, her skin now shifting to a warm golden hue. We want to understand if there are aspects of individual consciousness and emotional experience that we have overlooked in our pursuit of collective efficiency. Your species suggests there might be benefits to maintaining separate identity and emotional independence that we had not considered. This revelation surprised Marcus. He had assumed the Velthani saw human individuality as primitive compared to their shared consciousness. The idea that they might actually envy certain aspects of human psychology had never occurred to him. Have you ever experienced individual emotions, Zaravel? Feelings that were yours alone, not shared with your collective? Her skin darkened to a deep purple, and Marcus realized he had asked something profoundly personal. There have been moments, she admitted quietly, since arriving here and observing humans, I have begun to experience sensations that I cannot easily share with my people. Curiosity about experiences that seem uniquely individual. Wonder about what it might feel like to have thoughts and feelings that belong only to me. Marcus leaned forward, fascinated. What kind of experiences? Watching humans interact with each other, seeing the way their faces change when they look at someone they care about, observing the rituals you perform to show affection. There is something beautiful about the privacy of individual emotional experience that appeals to me in ways I cannot fully explain to my collective. That sounds like you're developing individual consciousness, Marcus said gently. Your own thoughts and feelings separate from your people. Perhaps, she acknowledged. Which brings me to my original question about human reproductive behavior. If physical intimacy serves emotional and psychological purposes for humans, and if I am developing individual emotional capacity, then I am curious whether I could understand these experiences through direct observation or participation. Marcus nearly choked on the water he had been drinking. Participation? I realize this may be an unusual request, Zaravel said quickly, her skin now cycling rapidly between different shades. But my understanding of human behavior has been entirely theoretical. I have observed through monitors and studied biological data, but I have no practical experience with the emotional aspects you described. If I am to truly comprehend what makes human relationships unique, should I not attempt to experience them firsthand? The implications of her question hit Marcus like a lightning bolt. A member of an advanced alien species was asking to experience human intimacy as a form of scientific and personal exploration. The xenobiology protocols had covered many scenarios for first contact situations, but this particular development had never been addressed in any manual he had studied. Zaravel, that's a very complex request. Human intimacy involves not just physical actions, but emotional connections that develop over time. It's not something that can be easily studied in isolation. I understand, she said, though her skin continued its rapid color cycling. But, Dr. Chun, I must tell you that in these weeks of observation and conversation, I have developed what I believe humans would call affection for you specifically. You have been patient with my questions, respectful of my curiosity, and kind in ways that my people do not typically express. If I were to explore these human experiences, I would want to do so with someone I trust. Marcus felt his heart rate increase significantly. The most advanced alien species humanity had ever encountered, and one of their representatives had just expressed personal feelings for him. The scientific, diplomatic, and personal implications were staggering. I'm honored by your trust, Zuravel, but we would need to consider many factors. Physical compatibility, emotional readiness, the diplomatic implications for both our species. I've been researching these considerations, she said. Velthani physiology is surprisingly compatible with human anatomy, though we would need to proceed carefully. As for diplomatic implications, my mission here is specifically to understand human culture and psychology. This exploration would fall within my official research parameters. Marcus realized he was standing at the threshold of something unprecedented in human history. The choices made in the next few moments could fundamentally change the relationship between two species and potentially alter the course of interspecies relations across the galaxy. What exactly are you proposing, Zaravel? I propose that you help me understand human intimacy from both scientific and personal perspectives. I want to know what it feels like to experience individual emotional connection, to understand why humans value privacy in their relationships, and to explore whether the physical aspects of human bonding can create the psychological effects you have described. Her skin had settled into a soft silver color, which Marcus had learned indicated complete sincerity and vulnerability. I am asking not just as a scientist studying your species, but as an individual who has developed genuine curiosity about experiences beyond my own cultural understanding. I am asking if you would be willing to be my teacher in matters of human connection. Marcus looked at this remarkable being who had traveled across the stars only to discover something beautiful about the most basic aspects of human experience. Her request was simultaneously scientific inquiry and personal confession, a bridge between two entirely different ways of existing in the universe. The weight of the moment settled on his shoulders. Whatever his answer, it would echo through history as one of the first truly intimate conversations between humans and an alien species. The future of Interstelli's understanding might well depend on how carefully they navigated these uncharted waters of cross-species connection. I need time to consider all the implications, he said finally. This is bigger than just the two of us, Zaravel. This could change everything between our peoples. I understand, she replied, her skin now glowing with warm appreciation. But, Dr. Chun, sometimes the most profound discoveries come from exploring new possibilities rather than adhering to established protocols. Perhaps our species have more to learn from each other than either of us initially realized. As Marcus left the laboratory that evening, his mind raced with possibilities and concerns in equal measure. Tomorrow's conversation would determine whether two species might find a connection that transcended the vast distances between stars, or whether some bridges were too complex to build across the cosmos. Either way, the universe had just become a much more interesting place. Marcus spent a sleepless night pacing his quarters aboard Kepler Station, wrestling with the most complex decision of his career. Through his porthole, Earth hung like a blue marble against the star-studded void, a reminder of the billions of people whose future might be influenced by his next conversation with Zaravel. He had contacted Director Harrison, the station commander, though he had carefully avoided mentioning the more personal aspects of Zaravel's request. The Velthani are expressing unprecedented interest in human emotional psychology, he had told Harrison during their late-night meeting. They believe understanding our bonding mechanisms could revolutionize their approach to consciousness and artificial intelligence development. Director Harrison, a practical woman in her 50s who had overseen first contact protocols for 3 different species, had listened carefully before responding. Dr. Chun, the Velthani represent the most advanced civilization we've encountered. If they want to understand human psychology more deeply, we have an obligation to facilitate that research within reasonable parameters. Just remember that everything you do reflects on our entire species. What Harrison didn't realize was that Zaravel's request went far beyond clinical observation. Marcus had reviewed every xenobiology manual, every first contact protocol, every diplomatic guideline in the station's database. Nowhere did any document address the possibility of intimate personal relationships between species. He was venturing into completely uncharted territory. The following morning, Marcus arrived at Laboratory 7 with a carefully prepared response and a portable environmental monitor he had requisitioned from the engineering department. If he was going to explore cross-species interaction, he wanted to ensure both their physiologies remained stable throughout any experiments. Zaravel was waiting in the observation chamber, her skin displaying a complex pattern of blues and silvers that he had learned indicated anticipation mixed with uncertainty. Her large violet eyes tracked his movements as he set up the additional monitoring equipment. Dr. Chun, she said as he activated the communication system, I have spent considerable time since our last conversation consulting with my collective about the nature of individual emotional experience. What I discovered was quite remarkable. What did you learn? When I attempted to share my curiosity about human intimacy with my people, I found that I could not adequately convey the personal aspects of my interest. The collective understands scientific curiosity, but the individual emotional components of my request seem to translate poorly when shared. This suggests that what I am experiencing truly is individual consciousness developing independent of our shared awareness. Marcus found this fascinating from both scientific and personal perspectives. So your feelings about this are uniquely yours? Precisely. And Dr. Chun, there's something else I must tell you. Last night, I attempted to experience what humans might call dreaming. I allowed my consciousness to drift into individual thought patterns rather than maintaining connection with the collective. The experience was extraordinary. She paused, her skin shifting to deeper shades. I dreamed about our conversations, about the way you explain complex concepts with patience and kindness. I dreamed about wondering what it might feel like to experience physical contact with someone who cares about my well-being rather than merely my research value. When I awakened, I realized that these were not scientific curiosities anymore. They were personal desires. Marcus felt his heart rate increase again. Zaravel, what you're describing sounds like you're developing what humans would call romantic feelings. Is that the correct term for wanting to experience closeness with a specific individual? For feeling happiness when thinking about spending time with them? For being curious about physical expressions of care and affection? That's exactly what it means, Marcus said softly. Then, yes, I believe I'm experiencing romantic feelings for you, Dr. Chun. And I would very much like to understand what humans do with such feelings. Marcus took a deep breath and made his decision. All right, Zaravel. I'm willing to help you explore these experiences. But we need to proceed carefully and gradually. Human emotional and physical intimacy develops in stages, building trust and understanding along the way. Her skin brightened to a brilliant silver, indicating joy. What will be the first stage? Well, usually humans start by spending time together in relaxed settings, having conversations about personal topics, and engaging in small physical gestures of affection. Could we begin now? Marcus smiled and activated the chamber's entry protocol. I think it's time we met in person without barriers between us. The decontamination cycle completed, and Marcus stepped into the observation chamber for the first time. Immediately, he was struck by Zaravel's presence. Standing near her, he could see the incredible detail in her skin's color patterns, could hear the musical quality of her voice without electronic filtering, and could sense the gentle warmth radiating from her tall, elegant form. You are smaller than I expected, she said with what he interpreted as amusement, but your presence feels much more substantial than it appeared through the monitors. How do you mean? I can sense your emotional state more clearly when you are near. Humans emit subtle energy patterns that correlate with their feelings. Right now, you feel nervous but excited, curious but careful. It is quite fascinating. Marcus realized that Velthani's senses were far more sophisticated than their research had indicated. Can you sense emotions from all humans, or just me? The ability seems to be strongest with individuals I have formed connections with. Another sign that I am developing individual consciousness, perhaps. My collective awareness is becoming more selective, more focused on personal relationships rather than universal data gathering. They sat on chairs Marcus had brought into the chamber, positioning themselves close enough to speak comfortably but far enough apart to avoid overwhelming either of them with proximity. For the next hour, they talked about their backgrounds, their hopes for the future, and their experiences leading up to this moment. Zaravel told him about her life on Velthur, a crystalline world where cities grew like living organisms and the aurora-like energy fields that served as their collective communication network painted the sky in constantly shifting colors. She described the loneliness of being the only member of her species to develop individual consciousness, the confusion of having thoughts, and feelings that couldn't be easily shared with her people. Marcus shared stories of his childhood on Earth, his passion for xenobiology that had driven him to request assignment to Kepler Station, and his own feelings of isolation as someone whose work kept him far from human civilization for months at a time. He found himself opening up to Zaravel in ways he hadn't with anyone in years. "Dr. Chun," she said after they had been talking for some time, "would it be appropriate for us to attempt physical contact? I am very curious about how human touch differs from Velthani interaction. How do your people typically show physical affection?" "We share energy fields," she explained, her skin shifting to warmer tones. When Velthani wish to express care for each other, they align their bioelectrical patterns and allow their auras to merge temporarily. It creates a sense of connection and shared experience. "That sounds beautiful," Marcus said. "Human touch is more direct. We use physical contact to convey emotion and create bonds. Would you like to try something simple?" Zaravel nodded eagerly. Marcus slowly extended his hand toward her, palm up, moving carefully so she could observe his actions and decide whether to participate. After a moment's hesitation, she reached out and gently placed her long, elegant fingers across his palm. The moment their skin made contact, both of them froze in amazement. Marcus felt a gentle, tingling sensation as Zaravel's bioelectrical field interacted with his nervous system. It wasn't unpleasant, rather like the feeling of mild static electricity, but warm and somehow comforting. For Zaravel, the experience was clearly profound. Her skin erupted in waves of golden light that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. "This is extraordinary," she whispered. "I can feel your emotional state directly, but not through my collective awareness. This is individual contact, person to person. The sensation is entirely different from anything I have experienced. What does it feel like for you?" "Like discovering a new sense I never knew I possessed. Your touch conveys kindness, curiosity, affection, and something else, something I do not have words for in any language I know." "That might be what humans call tenderness," Marcus said gently. "It's a soft form of love, caring about someone's well-being and wanting to provide comfort." Zaravel's eyes widened. "Love. I have heard this word in my research, but I never understood it was something that could be physically transmitted through contact." They sat holding hands for several more minutes, both of them marveling at the cross-species connection they had achieved. Marcus found himself genuinely attracted to this remarkable being who had traveled across the galaxy only to discover the beauty of individual emotional experience. Her curiosity, intelligence, and genuine care for understanding human nature drew him to her in ways that transcended their biological differences. "Zaravel," he said finally, "would you like to try something a bit more intimate?" Her skin brightened with anticipation. "Yes, please." Marcus stood and gently guided her to her feet. "This is called an embrace. Humans use it to show deep affection and provide comfort." He slowly moved closer to her, carefully watching her reactions. "May I put my arms around you?" She nodded, and Marcus gently wrapped his arms around her waist while she, following his lead, placed her long arms around his shoulders. The sensation of her warm, silken skin against his clothes was incredible, and he could feel her energy field enveloping him like a gentle electric blanket. "Oh," Zaravel breathed, her voice filled with wonder. I understand now why humans value physical closeness. The sensation is not merely physical. It creates emotional resonance that amplifies the feelings of connection between individuals. Exactly, Marcus murmured. Physical intimacy isn't just about reproduction for humans. It's about creating bonds, expressing emotions, and sharing experiences that strengthen relationships. They remained in their embrace for several minutes, both of them learning how to navigate this new form of connection. Marcus was amazed by how natural it felt to hold this alien being, how her different physiology somehow complemented his own in unexpected ways. Zaravel's skin continued its light display, creating a beautiful aurora around them both. When they finally separated, Zaravel's expression had changed profoundly. Dr. Chun, I believe I now understand what my collective could not comprehend about individual consciousness. These experiences, these feelings, they're beautiful precisely because they are private, personal, shared only between specific individuals who choose to connect with each other. That's one of the most important aspects of human relationships, Marcus agreed. The choice to be vulnerable with someone, to share parts of yourself that you don't share with anyone else. I would like to continue exploring these experiences with you, she said, her skin now glowing with soft, golden warmth. But I also realize that I want to understand not just the physical aspects of human intimacy, but the emotional journey that leads to deeper connection. Marcus felt a surge of affection for this remarkable being who had approached human sexuality with scientific curiosity, but had discovered something far more profound in the process. What would you like to explore next? I want to understand human courtship rituals. I want to learn how humans express romantic interest in each other, how they build emotional intimacy over time, and how they decide when they are ready for the physical expressions of love you have described. That sounds like a wonderful plan, Marcus said. We can take as much time as you need to understand each stage of human romantic development. Zaravel moved closer to him again, her large violet eyes studying his face with intense interest. Dr. Chun, may I ask you a personal question? Of course. Are you experiencing romantic feelings for me as well? Or are you merely helping me understand human behavior as part of your professional responsibilities? Marcus looked into those beautiful alien eyes and realized that somewhere in the process of teaching Zaravel about human emotions, he had genuinely fallen for her. Her curiosity, intelligence, vulnerability, and unique perspective on existence had captured his heart in ways he hadn't expected. Zaravel, he said softly, I think I'm falling in love with you too. Her skin exploded in brilliant patterns of gold, silver, and warm blue. Then we will explore these feelings together, learning from each other about forms of connection that neither of our species has experienced before. As they stood together in the laboratory, holding hands and sharing what might have been the first truly romantic moment between human and alien, Marcus realized they were creating something entirely new. Not just scientific discovery or diplomatic breakthrough, but genuine emotional connection that transcended the vast differences between their species. Tomorrow, they would continue their exploration of human intimacy, but tonight, they had discovered something that neither Earth nor Velther had ever imagined possible: love that bridged the stars. 3 weeks had passed since Marcus and Zaravel had shared their first embrace, and their relationship had evolved in ways that astounded both of them. Each day brought new discoveries about cross-species emotional connection, and both had found themselves experiencing feelings they never thought possible. The laboratory had been reconfigured with comfortable seating areas, softer lighting, and privacy screens that allowed them to interact without constant monitoring. Marcus had requisitioned a larger chamber where they could spend extended time together, ostensibly for comprehensive cultural exchange research. Director Harrison had approved the request without question, delighted that the Velthani were showing such interest in understanding human psychology. What she didn't realize was that the research had become deeply personal for both participants. During their courtship period, Marcus had introduced Zaravel to human romantic customs. They had shared meals together, with Marcus explaining how humans used dining as a social bonding activity rather than mere biological necessity. Zaravel found the concept fascinating, especially when Marcus prepared foods with different flavors and textures specifically chosen to create pleasant sensory experiences. They had watched human movies together, with Zaravel asking countless questions about the emotional motivations of the characters. Her favorite films turned out to be romantic comedies, which she found hilarious not because of the humor, but because of what she called the delightful inefficiency of human mating rituals. The fact that humans would create elaborate complications in their pursuit of love struck her as charmingly illogical. Their physical intimacy had progressed gradually, with each new form of contact teaching them both about the unexpected compatibility between their species. Kissing, which Marcus had introduced carefully after explaining its significance, had become Zaravel's favorite human custom. The exchange of breath and the gentle pressure of lips created energy resonances that her bioelectrical field interpreted as waves of pleasure and emotional connection. Dr. Chun, she had said after their first kiss, her skin shimmering with golden delight. This practice explains so much about human bonding behavior. The physical sharing of breath creates intimacy that goes far beyond mere touch. It is like a merger of life forces. Now, as they sat together in their private space, Zaravel had something important to discuss. Her skin was cycling through complex patterns that Marcus had learned indicated she was processing significant thoughts. "Marcus," she said, using his first name as she had begun doing in their private moments, "I believe I am ready to experience the complete physical expression of human love." Marcus had been anticipating this conversation, but still felt his heart rate increase. Over their weeks together, their emotional connection had deepened beyond anything he had previously experienced. Zaravel's unique perspective on existence, her genuine care for his well-being, and her innocent wonder at human experiences had captured his heart completely. He was genuinely in love with this remarkable alien woman. "Are you certain this is what you want?" he asked gently. "Not just for research purposes, but for personal reasons?" "I am absolutely certain," she replied, her skin settling into the warm silver that indicated complete sincerity. "Marcus, what began as scientific curiosity has become something I never expected. I have fallen in love with you as an individual. I want to experience complete physical intimacy with you because I care about you personally, not because I'm studying human behavior. I feel the same way about you, Zaravel. But we need to be careful about physical compatibility. Our physiologies are similar, but not identical. I have been researching this extensively," she said with a smile. "Velthani physiology is remarkably adaptable. Our bodies can adjust to accommodate physical interaction with compatible species. Additionally, our bioelectrical fields can enhance pleasure and emotional connection for both participants." Marcus realized that he was about to participate in what would likely be the first consensual intimate encounter between humans and Velthani. The implications were staggering, but his feelings for Zaravel had grown beyond concerns about historical significance. "What do you need me to know about your physiology?" he asked. "Velthani intimate contact involves both physical joining and energy field merger," she explained, her skin beginning to glow softly. "When we connect physically, our bioelectrical fields synchronize, creating shared sensory experiences and emotional resonance. This means you will feel not only your own pleasure, but echoes of mine as well." "That sounds incredible. There is something else," she continued, her colors shifting to warmer tones. "If we choose to attempt reproduction, Velthani human hybrid offspring are theoretically possible, though they would require careful monitoring and possibly technological assistance for optimal development." Marcus was stunned. "You've researched cross-species reproduction?" "My collective is very interested in the possibility of genetic diversity expanding our evolutionary potential. Human DNA contains sequences that could enhance Velthani adaptability and individual consciousness development. However," she added quickly, I mention this only as a possibility for the future. Today, I simply want to express my love for you in the most complete way possible. They moved to the sleeping area Marcus had arranged in their expanded chamber, a space they had designed together with both human and Velthani comfort preferences in mind. Soft lighting created an intimate atmosphere, while Zaravel's natural luminescence added an ethereal beauty to their surroundings. As they began to explore complete physical intimacy, Marcus was amazed by the unique aspects of Velthani sexuality. Zaravel's skin became increasingly luminous as her arousal grew, creating beautiful patterns of light that pulsed in harmony with both their heartbeats. When their bioelectrical fields began to synchronize, Marcus experienced sensations unlike anything he had ever imagined. The merger of their energy fields created a feedback loop of shared pleasure and emotion that transcended purely physical sensation. Marcus could feel Zaravel's wonder and joy as she experienced human-style intimacy, while she could sense his amazement and deep affection for her. The emotional resonance amplified every touch, every kiss, every moment of connection between them. When they finally joined physically, the experience was transcendent for both of them. The physical compatibility was remarkable, as if their species had evolved with the potential for this connection. Zaravel's adaptable physiology allowed perfect harmony with Marcus's anatomy, while her bioelectrical field created waves of pleasure that encompassed them both. "Oh, Marcus," she whispered, her skin now blazing with brilliant golden light, "I understand now why humans consider physical love to be sacred. This is not merely reproduction or even pleasure. This is the complete sharing of self with another being." "I love you, Zaravel," Marcus said, overwhelmed by the intensity of their connection. Not just as a research partner or cultural exchange, but as the remarkable individual you've become. "I love you too," she replied, her voice filled with wonder. "And, Marcus, I can feel something happening within me. Our connection is triggering biological changes in my physiology." As their intimacy continued, Marcus realized that Zaravel's bioelectrical field was not just enhancing their pleasure, but was actively adapting both their bodies to maximize compatibility and connection. The Velthani capacity for biological adaptation meant that each encounter would improve their physical harmony, creating increasingly profound experiences of shared intimacy. When they finally lay together afterward, both glowing softly in the aftermath of their unprecedented union, Zaravel turned to Marcus with an expression of complete contentment. "I have contacted my collective to report my findings," she said, causing Marcus to tense slightly. "I told them that humans possess forms of emotional and physical connection that could revolutionize Velthani understanding of individual consciousness and interpersonal bonding." What was their response? "They are sending a delegation to study our relationship further," she said with amusement. "It seems that several other Velthani are now interested in developing individual consciousness and experiencing human-style romantic love." Marcus laughed despite himself. "So we might be starting an interspecies dating trend." "Possibly," she said, her skin shimmering with happiness. "But, Marcus, I also told them something else. I told them that I wish to remain on this station permanently, to continue my relationship with you, and to serve as an ambassador for Velthani human romantic and cultural exchange. Really, I have found something among humans that my people never experienced: the joy of individual love and personal choice in relationships. I do not wish to return to a collective consciousness when I have discovered the beauty of sharing my thoughts and feelings with one special individual." Marcus felt his heart soar. "What did your collective say about that?" "They agreed on one condition. They want us to document our relationship development and physical compatibility for other Velthani who might wish to pursue similar connections with humans. We are to be the first official interspecies romantic couple, serving as research subjects and ambassadors for a new form of galactic relationship." "I can live with that," Marcus said, pulling her closer. Though I have to ask, do you want to attempt the reproduction possibility we discussed earlier? Zaravel's skin exploded in brilliant colors. Are you proposing that we try to create hybrid offspring? I'm saying that if we're going to be together permanently, and if it's medically safe, I would be honored to have children with you. Our offspring would represent something entirely new in galactic history. Marcus, she said, her voice filled with emotion, yes. I would very much like to create new life with you, combining the best aspects of both our species. As they lay together planning their future, Marcus realized that what had begun as a scientific curiosity about human reproduction had evolved into genuine love that would change both their lives forever. They had discovered that emotional connection could transcend species barriers, that love was truly a universal force capable of bridging the vast distances between different worlds. 3 months later, Kepler Station received its first delegation of Velthani volunteers interested in developing individual consciousness and pursuing romantic relationships with humans. Marcus and Zaravel had become the station's official ambassadors for interspecies relations, helping other Velthani understand human emotional development while assisting humans in adapting to Velthani energy field interactions. Their relationship had become a model for a new form of galactic diplomacy, one based not on political treaties or trade agreements, but on genuine emotional connections between individuals from different species. The success of their union had opened possibilities for relationships between humans and the 47 other species the Velthani had encountered in their travels. Most remarkably, Zaravel had indeed become pregnant with what would be the first documented human Velthani hybrid child. The pregnancy was proceeding beautifully, with both human and Velthani medical specialists monitoring the development of what promised to be a child with the best qualities of both species. Human emotional depth and individual consciousness combined with Velthani bioelectrical abilities and technological affinity. As Marcus watched Zaravel in their quarters, her skin glowing softly with the energy patterns that indicated healthy pregnancy, he marveled at the journey that had brought them together. What had started as an alien scientific question about human reproduction had become a love story that would echo through galactic history. Their child would grow up in a universe where love between different species was not only possible, but celebrated, where individual consciousness and collective wisdom could coexist, and where the barriers between civilizations could be bridged through genuine emotional connection. The Velthani had come to Earth seeking to understand human